Welcome to the Generous Business Owner Podcast, where business owners gain inspiration and encouragement to live a legacy, not just leave one. And now your hosts, Jeff Thomas, Alan Barnhart, and Jeff Rutt.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's Generous Business Owner Podcast. My name is Jeff Thomas, and we have a very special guest with us today. We have Paul Thrift, who's the co-founder and CEO of Thompson Thrift Development, a nationally recognized real estate development construction company. They've done a lot of things for a lot of years, so I'm really excited to have Paul with us. Paul, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Jeff. It's an honor to be here and be with you and your listeners.
Well, this is going to be a lot of fun. Well, Paul, as you know, we always just start out with just some background. Really, this is just your story that we're trying to share, really God's story through you, frankly. Tell us where you grew up, what your family was like. Was there any, early entrepreneurial stuff or spiritual development? What was it like in the Thrift household growing up?
Well, if I think back to those many years ago, I was born in Texas, in Fort Worth. My dad was in seminary there. We were not there long, but moved to Houston, where my extended family was from, and that was home to us. And a rather traumatic turn of events when I was 8 years old. My dad took a church in Indiana, which was far, far away from Houston, Texas. A different climate, different culture. Had two younger sisters at the time. Ultimately, had another sister once we moved to Indiana. For three younger sisters, but that was pretty traumatic in our lives at the time and in my mother's life to move that far away and to really, a foreign place. Might as well have been a foreign country. But my dad moved us to Indiana and took a church there. And so we totally kind of uprooted our lives. And that's been home to me since. And so I've lived here since I was 8 years old. So Indiana's home to me and where I really grew up now, remembering. But we grew up as preachers' kids. In very humble, I would say, environment. We didn't know that because I think, everybody's existence is kind of centerline. Everybody's either right or left of you in your mind as you're growing up. But really, as I look back, we were very meager existence at that time. And so that was a motivator in my life, I would say. I did have kind of an entrepreneurial upbringing, even though that wasn't something that was kind of part of our family. I think it was just my drive.
You're kind of your own. Yeah. Well, how did that manifest itself? What kind of things did you do as growing up on that side?
Well, and I'll give my mother a lot of credit. I think she always inspired me and was really an encourager that, hey, you can do this, you can do anything you want.
That's nice.
Always trying to provide for us in ways that were, kind of maybe beyond what our means were as a family. But I think that manifested itself in me just always being entrepreneurial. So I was mowing grass as a 10 or 11-year-old, and I began to make kind of craft things in my dad's woodwork shop. I sold nameplates as middle school and early into high school years. Had my sisters selling stuff at school. I think I sold these nameplates for $1 a letter, and I would stay up at night, make them. And so it was that type of activity.
Who are you selling them to? The nameplates?
Their teachers, their friends. At $1 a letter, if your name was Bob, you could buy a nameplate for $3. If it was Robert, then it got you for $6.
I love it.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And then it just led into working at different establishments and helping at construction sites. And my dad worked outside the church many times in construction, so I would work with him, and that's really where I got some exposure, not much, but some exposure to construction and swinging a hammer and that sort of thing. So I grew up in a faithful home, great examples in my parents. So I believe I came to Christ at a young age, in my early teens. I believe I was serious, but I don't have this great conversion story of I I was away or in this dark place. However, I really didn't. I don't believe establish a really strong personal standalone relationship with Christ until I was probably around 30,
Hmm.
and I began, to really contemplate my decision, and that's when I believe I truly came to Christ in a different way and created a personal relationship that, quite frankly, I'm still then pursuing that to this
Right.
day. As more recently, I've just really been focused on pursuing complete surrender, which is, in my view, sort of an elusive thing because my human nature comes back so seldom or so frequent,
Yeah.
uh, and so that's something I'm still battling today. So it has been a journey, I think, is an accurate description, but that's a little bit
Yeah.
about my
Well,
faith
I'd
journey.
like to kind of hear about maybe what the catalyst was for that deepening at 30, but maybe before we get to that, that was really helpful about the entrepreneurial thing. I mean, the nameplates, I haven't heard that one before. That's good. And then being at a construction site, I mean, even just a small exposure kind of normalizes that environment, so you get a little comfortable with that environment. I'm sure that was helpful. What did you study, and then kind of what did you sort of do college, and then sort of post college until 30, and then maybe let's pick up the story from there.
Well, as I mentioned, I was, kind of in pursuit of standing on my own 2 feet, and just knew that, quite frankly, I probably have never expressed this, but I knew in my heart I didn't want to be poor.
Right.
I just knew that, and I don't think there's much, any shame in that.
Yeah.
But really, I was just looking for a way to, I guess, explore a way to make something. It wasn't so selfish or personal. It was just I knew I needed to break out and figure out what I could do. So in high school, I worked 40 plus hours a week,
Oh, wow.
at least my last 2 years in school. I have my business partner of today. We were friends in high school, uh,
Amazing.
and so that we've been on a 40-year partnership that we started in 1986. But to kind of unpack that, how that got started, just in conversation as I was graduating high school in 1986, John was working, with his dad on some rental property. We began to converse and bought a repossessed home. As I'm sure you recall those days, Jeff. Every bank in town had 30 repossessed homes on the book. The interest rates were 12+%, and a lot of repossessed property. I had been mowing grass for a bank, and mowing, uh, you know, chest high grass at repossessed homes. And so we got to conversing. We bought a home that summer for $3,000. I remember I had $3,300 saved to pay for school. And at that time, I was sitting in pretty good shape because tuition was $800 a semester. I was enrolled at Indiana State University, which is in our hometown of Terre Haute, Indiana. And so we spent, I think, pretty much all the money I had in the bank, and probably John, and we bought this repossessed home. We renovated it. We spent weeks, if not months, that summer, cleaning it up, getting it looking good, painting, ripping out the carpet, and getting it to a point we could sell it. And we sold it.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. Pause. I'm picturing this. What are you, 18? Are you even 18?
I was 17, yes.
Like you're a minor and you bought a house from a bank. Like, okay, that's something most 30-year-olds don't do. Okay. I've never heard of another 17-year-old buying a house from the bank I mean, did mom come down and sign with you? Dad? I mean, you had to have some actual adult. I'm just you gotta describe that scene to me. I mean, you just like this sort of tells me something about you that you think that's normal. Like you're like, oh yeah, so we bought mowing the grass, we bought the house. You're 17 years old. Like, okay, just describe that scene. The closing. Tell us about who was there.
Well, looking back, I guess I recognize that was probably not normal. I'll acknowledge
But
that.
you've been doing it ever since, so it's it is
Now,
normal to you still,
at the
but
time, we really didn't think a lot about it. I think John and I both had sort of independent, I guess ignorance is bliss is
yeah, right. Yeah.
the saying is true
Hey,
that
it's
we
three
just,
grand. Hey, it's 3 grand. We have the money. Let's just go do it. We'll go fix it. I mean, it's a kind of a simple thought, right? Like, how hard could it be?
yeah. And John had been involved with, his dad working on some rental property.
Okay.
I had helped my dad renovate a couple of houses. We just thought, well, we can do this. And again,
Okay, that makes
looking
sense.
back, we no way we should have done it, but we did it. I think the
Hilarious.
of limitations is up, so I can probably tell the story that I believe I fibbed about my age.
Okay,
Actually,
yeah. I
so
mean, I'm picturing this 17-year-old at the bank, like signing the document. Okay, but that does make sense that your dad, you'd been taking on some things. John's dad had some rental. I mean, it was a little. Anyway, that was just it was a little more normal for you, but I've never heard that story before. That's super unique.
so
Okay, sorry. Please.
that started a journey that we continued throughout college, really not
Yeah,
thinking we were building a business. We were just paying our way through school.
right, right. It was a job. It was
It was a
just
job.
spending money to get through. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we had some cash flow from that first property we sold on contract. We did that dozens of times throughout our college career. We began to build some fourplexes, purpose-built student housing kind of came a few years
Wow.
later. So we began to grow. We dabbled in things outside of real estate. Every time we did, it was sort of a setback and
Right.
something that wasn't that successful. So we did fall in love with real estate and the concept of construction and creating value through meeting a need and housing primarily and some commercial work. So that birthed our real estate career. Again, we didn't really
Wow.
know that it was a career or we were building a business. We were just paying our way through school, but it began to gain some scale. A few years later, uh, we started some purpose-built student housing, which did not exist off of the campus of where we were attending school at Indiana State. And so we built, I believe, we bought an acre of ground right adjacent to campus and built 56 beds or
Wow.
28 two-bedroom units and managed it, actually lived there, and had a great success and continued to expand that over, I think, the next almost 10 years until we ultimately sold that asset. But that's a little bit about the beginnings of
Yeah.
our journey in real
Okay,
estate.
just for fun, Paul, you got to share one failure. What was something you dabbled in? It's probably going to sound ridiculous now, but I just think it's fun. What was something that you tried? Do you remember?
Well, I think the only question would be there is how ridiculous, which one, how
Yeah,
ridiculous do you want to
pick your
go?
favorite. Pick one or two.
So two quick ones. It was 1988. John and I, through some contact, I think of his dad's, had a guy who was trying to get rid of uh, a semi trailer full of fireworks, and so we thought this was a good idea to sell fireworks that summer. And I think we set up 13 different uh, stations around town on different vacant lots. Some we own, some others, and began to try to sell fireworks. Well, that was the drought of 1988. I think by June they banned fireworks because it was so dry.
Oh
And
no.
so our whole game plan, went up in smoke, kind of literally, and we ended up with a lot of surplus fireworks. So we had a great personal Fourth of July, but we lost a lot of money trying
Okay,
to.
that's hysterical. Yeah, highly entertained yourself, but yeah, it didn't work out. Okay, thanks for just sharing one of
So
those
I have
things.
lots of ridiculous stories.
I love it. I love it because I mean I just think that's the reality, right? It's just not all we were talking before we started recording. It's just not always up and to the right. And sorry if I'm getting ahead of you, but I was just telling somebody recounting the story of it's actually kind of bizarre the similarities you and I have. We're the same age, and I actually was born in Indiana and then made my way. My dad was a pastor in Indiana also, and made my way to Missouri to grow up, but then down to Texas. So we've sort of reversed places, but uh, it's and then right after college, I was working the war room for the RTC when all the savings and loans were taking over all the real estate. Was that something you were sort of conscious of? I was wearing my poly blend $100 suit that I think I got three free ties with. Okay, that might have lit, caught on fire if I got too close to a flame. I mean, it was a terrible suit. But I was selling real estate to probably people like you and older developers who were buying it for pennies on the dollar. Was that something you got involved with? Were you able to acquire some? Because that interesting timing that you were already kind of in that market. Was that happening for you?
So I was not really conscious of the
Yeah, yeah,
macro
I wouldn't be
picture.
surprised. Yeah,
I was again a,
right out of college.
I was a political science major at Indiana State, not really attending school except I just showed up to take the test. I was
Right.
focused. We were working around the clock,
You were a
renovating
business guy
houses.
going to school, not a school person
You
doing a
had the
side
suit
job.
on. I had the Levi's and the tool belt on, and we were swinging hammers and
Right.
paying bills at night, and so that was our journey.
Right.
As we got several years out, we began to understand, hey, there's a macro economy
Okay.
out
Yeah,
here
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
impact.
Right.
But at that point in time, we were purely street level,
Yeah.
just creating
Makes
value
sense. Makes sense.
downstream.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, you say that's pretty amazing. During college, you have this 56 bed deal. Um, I thought it was impressive in my 20s when I bought a duplex and had a roommate and rented out the upstairs. So this is like totally next level. Um, and so it just keeps growing from there. So what are some of the next projects like in your 20s? What are some of the next projects that kind of took place?
Well, we had other setback,
Yeah, okay, yeah.
things that I would say were always, kind of sprinkled in there, things we would experiment with. We opened a convenience store, gas station. That was a terrible time to do it, and I think it was 1994.
Oh yeah.
Uh, the cigarette revenue had changed, gasoline had changed, so totally terrible time to get it. We lost more money there than as a percentage of our kind of overall worth or revenue at that time. It should have put us out of business altogether, but by the grace of God, we limped through that. But really, our real estate journey continued to grow. We started building some market rate multifamily, had some success with that. Started building some commercial, developing some commercial project through the mid 90s. We bought our first shopping center to renovate, re-tenant in 1996, I believe it was. That sort of set us on a journey there and began to put a team together to develop commercial real estate. I believe it was the early 90s, we segregated out our construction activity. And again, John Thompson, my partner at Thompson Thrift, we've been on this now. We celebrated our 40th year together. He really began to migrate to lead our construction and
Okay.
general
Yeah, yeah.
contracting entity, and I began to lead our development company, which we grew into a commercial development group, and then ultimately a group focused on multifamily, market rate multifamily development, and really got serious about that and put together a business plan in 2007 and 8. And we hired a team with the intent of creating a national platform multifamily development group at scale and repeating a scalable model, a prototypical unit, and really with a consciousness toward kind of a lot of secondary markets and suburban development when a lot of the capital at that point in time was focused pure development capital was focused almost purely on the top 10 markets in the country to they're ignoring to the exclusion of secondary markets and particularly suburban markets, even like Indianapolis, where we are headquartered, would not really attract institutional capital, particularly in suburban Indianapolis, for instance. So we set out on that journey, and that's still the business model that we're focused on
So
today.
and forgive me not being a real estate guy, and maybe for our listeners that are like me that don't know all the vocabulary, maybe what development, talk about is that buying land, okay, and then the construction, then you turn it over to John to build the stuff. I mean, walk us through kind of what that practically looks like.
Yeah, great question. So today, looking at what we are today, how we operate, we're focused on multifamily housing, which is apartment communities,
Right.
throughout the United States. A typical business, life
Yeah.
cycle of a
Right. Life
project for
cycle.
us
Right.
is we go out and identify markets around the country where we
Okay.
think the right fundamentals exist. So we're identifying MSAs or metropolitan statistical areas, cities. We identify then the submarket inside of that city, it's a suburban,
Yeah.
say
Where do we want to be? So you pick the
North Dallas
location.
or
Yeah.
or you know so on. And so we identify that. We go in and we identify then a site or a particular piece of property, and
Right.
we'll negotiate terms on that property to purchase it. We have to get it entitled through the city, then we have to design it, run feasibility, financial feasibility.
And
Then we
that's
have
the stuff you're leading. Like you're
that's
doing
correct.
all that. That's the development part, right?
That's right. And I have a great team, very blessed with
Yeah.
a team of experts that at identifying markets, entitling, underwriting, financing, raising capital. So we get it all ready to go where we have a permit in hand, we
Yeah.
have a pro forma that we believe in, we have it
Shovel
capitalized,
ready. Okay.
that's shovel ready. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. And then John, through our sister general contracting company,
Okay.
his group comes in and builds it. And
Builds
then we
it.
also have a management company on my side of the business that will manage the property until we monetize it, whether it's through a permanent financing vehicle or through a sale. And ultimately, so that's our business model. We
Yeah.
create the value through creating, affordable, safe, well-located housing that can house really middle America. But we build a Class A institutional grade apartment
Okay.
community, 250 to 350 units, fully amenitized, clubhouse, pool, fitness center, and generally again 250 to 350 families are living there. So it gives us an opportunity. I know we'll talk about some,
Yeah,
but
I think that's a good trade. I mean,
yeah,
how often are you, I mean, do you have a number in your brain or is it, I guess it's probably market driven, how long you hold them versus selling them? Is it just a market driven thing? You're not like, well, we're going to hold 50%, we're going to sell 50%. It's not that simple, I would imagine. Is it market dependent or are you really, we hold 2 years and then we sell it? Like, what's the general thought process around that?
a lot of that is market driven.
Yeah.
We set out with one goal in mind, and the market shifts, and so you might
Yeah.
might change. But our core strategy is a merchant developer. So we believe we create the value by identifying that market,
Yeah.
the construction process, the entitlement process, then stabilizing that asset to full occupancy. And once we have de-risked that asset from a
Yes.
construction, from proving out the rents, proving out occupancy,
Yes.
then there's typically money out there, pension money, institutional
Yes.
capital, who will pay a premium for that stabilized and that cash
They're
stream
more
that
of
we
the
create.
operator, the long-term
Correct.
operator or medium-term operator. You're the developer, create the value, get it stable, and
That's right.
then, you know,
Then we'll harvest that
yeah, and then go
capital,
do it again.
and we'll go do it again.
Yeah.
We reward our investors. We have over 1,000 individual investors that invest in our platform, and so we'll distribute those proceeds, and many of them reinvest to go do it again. And we're proud of that. We think we provide what is now readily known as a shortage of housing in our country, and so we're providing good quality, safe, well-located housing for a lot of people that want and need that. And so we're proud of that process and use it as a platform for our ministry to those residents, but also and primarily to our team members.
Okay. So let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, and you mentioned earlier in our conversation that your faith was kind of deepening at 30 and this sort of thing, but you got really an early start, right? The business is already kind of going pretty solidly at 30. But sort of maybe how has your sort of faith in informed how you think about this platform? How did you sort of evolve in your thinking about using the platform to be a blessing to other people? I mean, it's a blessing just to build a solid, high quality place for people to live. I mean, that imbued in what you do is a positive, effect. But beyond that, how do you think about that platform?
Yeah, that's great, Jeff, and I can get really excited about talking about that. And there's so many aspects to it,
Yeah.
even in your question, the different stages and how
Yeah,
you
yeah,
evolve
yeah.
over
Just,
time.
just the story of it, you know?
Yes, and so prior to, I would say, my early 30s, working around the clock, I was just building a business,
Yeah.
really even comprehend, where
Yeah,
we
you're
were
on the
headed,
grind.
just grinding.
Yeah.
And so it was, my faith, it was just compartmentalized. I would go to church
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Sundays. I go back to work, as soon as I get out, and work the rest of the week. And it was real to me, but it was compartmentalized. Is the best way I
Totally
could
makes
describe it.
sense. I think a lot of people, including me, can relate to that early in our careers, you know? Just trying to get it up on plane, you know?
And so as I came to, a personal relationship with Christ, it didn't flip a switch and say, okay, now
Right.
decompartmentalize it. It happened over, the course of several years. And I think that, as I described in 2007, 8, we wrote a business plan to scale what we had, trying to take the lessons and some of the things we had learned over the course of the previous really 20 years of the first, say, half of our careers together as a partnership, and set out. Well, we grew and we had a lot of success, but we really kind of lost our culture that was just really part of an extension of who we are, who we were, uh, who we are. But we added a lot of folks to our team during that period. We expanded geographically from being in 2 or 3 states to a dozen states around the country. We added new products. And so through that, we really looked up and had really lost our culture. And it was through that period that I began to pray for a ministry. Uh, I was in my head, just half jokingly, of, hey, God, what do you have in store for me? What's the next season of life? And should I be drilling water wells in Africa, or
Yeah.
what is this I should be doing? And through that uh, pursuit of His will, and what do you have for me? What should I be doing? I kept getting the same answer that finally I kind of woke up and heard was, Paul, I've given you this platform. I've given you a very limited skill set. You're using it. Why do you keep asking me for something different?
Right.
I've given you influence and entrusted, this families to you, people trusting you for their livelihood. Use that platform. And that's when the
So
light
good.
bulb really came off, and to decompartmentalize my faith, to live it out in all aspects of my life, including the workplace, to use that platform really to impact our team members, which I was convicted about first. And so we began to build a program inside of our business to focus on our team first. And we have 3 pillars of that now: our team, community service, and then a global aspect where we do missions in 5 Central American countries, or markets, as we call them. But really, the root of that was really to capture our culture, define it, codify it, use it as a platform, to carry out my mission that I believe God had called me to. So this was early in the 2010s. We began to define our mission statement, which is to positively impact our team members and the communities that we serve. And I tell our people often, we have a program where we concentrate on their well-being. We serve our community. We serve beyond our borders, but also in just living out and being, good and excellent at what we do, providing safe, affordable, quality housing. We uh, that is a positive impact to the communities and the people that we serve. We are creating tax base. We're beautifying, creating jobs. I mean, all of that is positive, and we can be
Yeah.
proud of that. So that's living out our mission, but also then to serve our team members, physically, spiritually, financially, and in that way is also living out our mission to positively impact our team members and the communities that we serve. So through that, and it's been a journey over, now about a decade or so of being very intentional, having a strategy, a budget, staff, and again, this didn't happen overnight, but it's
Yeah.
happened over the course of time that we now have a well-established program to minister to our people, in a number of ways, our communities and then globally. But again, that didn't happen overnight. That's been a progression over time.
One thing that I know you do is take some of your team members on vision trips, right? Is that been a kind of a key part, an interesting part? I'm just looking, and if so, what have the sort of positive feedback been from that?
Overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah.
As I talk through that journey and forces me to think through that journey. At the beginning stages, uh, it was a foreign concept to our
Right.
people, even to me, trying to figure out how do we verbalize this and how do we
Right.
codify it and give it structure. It was a foreign concept. Now our people look at it and embrace it fully and
Yeah.
expect it of as part of our DNA. So
Mm.
so there was a transition period in there. As I mentioned, our focus is first and foremost on our team and ministering
Yeah.
to them. So
Yes.
everything we do, whether it's serving in the community, uh, globally with the vision trips, it's really about first and foremost, and it's a win-win-win. But it's first and foremost about ministering to our people, giving them avenues to serve, reaching them and growing them spiritually, and so on, and their families. But back to the vision trips and your question. uh, our three pillars of our TT Serve, our service program, is first our team members, and we have a program to serve them that we have many aspects of that program.
Okay.
Then we have community, and so we serve our community. We have community service partners
Okay.
in the communities where we're working. That again gives our people an avenue to serve,
Like volunteer. They can volunteer.
volunteers. So not just financially, we have.
Right. Right. Right.
Now we have two buckets, active and passive giving. About
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
80% of our giving is active, where we want the opportunity to be involved in the
Yeah. The
organization.
hands go with the check. Yeah.
That's correct. So
Yeah.
we're on the ground serving in a multiple of different ways with these community service partners, and would love to unpack that. But that gets us to the global aspect, which came later. That was a progression that we wanted to get to, but we wanted to do the first two things well. And so on the vision trips, we've chosen two partners. ICM, the global church
Oh yeah.
developer, is our primary partner there, that we finance churches in Central America. And so through that, we have 5 vision trips per year where we'll take about a dozen of our team members and some of their family members. So we encourage them to bring maybe a high school or college age child with them. And it gives them a chance to go. The camaraderie that's built, the kind of spiritual awakenings that happen on those trips. You're in a different environment. You're exposed to, these pastors and congregations in these areas that are very thankful to see us, and we're there to serve them. At the same time, we're there to serve our team members. So again, it's just a win-win. The way God's worked through those trips is amazing and so heartwarming for me to see. I just got back, 2 weeks ago from Merida, Mexico, which is one of the cities that we serve, and we've just created relationships with pastors there. And so it's just a blessing to be able to go serve them, finance these churches and hope centers, which are basically community centers,
Yeah.
uh, and just see the growth in our team members, many of them now who've taken multiple trips and have become leaders. We try to raise up leaders to lead each market. So I really could talk all day, but the benefits of that and the impact of that has really been immeasurable.
I mean, we could do a whole podcast, and maybe we should someday, on the program, the three pillars, and what you're doing within those. I mean, we should probably do that one day. But let's just maybe talk about the benefits to you and the organization. So obviously, there's a benefit for the person going, that sort of thing. But I have a feeling there's some maybe unexpected benefits to you personally, just the way you feel about this, and perhaps your partner, and then also because we're kind of speaking to the business owner here. How has that been for you? And maybe what are some of the unexpected benefits to the organization that maybe you didn't even see going into it?
For sure. And as I said, it's win, win, win.
Right.
We're there benefiting uh, and serving the people there, which are just inspiring folks. They're there, very meager existence, many of the place, highly impoverished. That's why we're there. These pastors that are serving their congregations, that's the most emotional part for me, quite frankly. Maybe being a pastor's child uh, helps or softens me, makes me more aware of that. But just seeing these pastors, they primarily live, uh, you know, on the property where the church is. They live in very meager existence, but they're so happy. They're so joyful. They're there to serve their congregation. So that's been a very moving thing for me personally, and really motivated me to want to support them. And I tell our people when we talk about building these churches, we don't just build a church in a building out in the middle of nowhere. We're not building it, we're just financing it. The congregation is building it. But we go to meet a congregation that's functioning, has good leadership in place, has a good pastor, and we're encouraging them by giving them a building that
Yeah.
that they need desperately. They can serve kids better through building, classrooms and restrooms, and the Hope Centers provide uh, a physical plant for missions to come in with medical services and feed kids on a daily basis, all types of different programming that can go on in these facilities. So we're there to encourage them, love on them. But that impact to me personally has been substantial, and my family being able to take my children on trips. And then the other impact to me is just watching our team members. And I've gotten to go on quite a few trips. I try to do every one each year, but I fall short. So generally 3 to 5 a year for me. But many of them it's their first time going. So you see them on the plane and then the bus, and they're nervous and they don't know what in the world.
Right, right. What have I got myself into? Yeah.
They generally don't know. We purposefully take people from different departments who don't really know each other from around the country, and they're all together. And it's just this period of nervousness. And then you see them warming up, and we do a skit. We do some prosthetic uh, legs that we are partnered with a group that we take legs with us, and we have a fitting. And so that's really special. But just watching the progression and the impact and the tears and the emotions of our people, I honestly, I just sit back and I get emotional just to think about it right
Yeah.
now, because that's to me the manifestation of what God put in my heart, what He's enabled us to do fully, enabled us to do in ways that we could never have conceived, and then making it happen. And just, Jeff, God has, and I've started a list on my phone of people that He has just put in my path over the last really 7 or 8 years.
Mm.
It's unbelievable, and you're on that list of people I would have never met and shouldn't have ever met,
Right.
but somehow God just put our paths and they crossed. And so that's had such an influence on me. But God has put all of this together. So when I'm standing there, and I just got back from this trip, watching our folks, that's very impactful to me and heartwarming, and I
I think you and
could have
I think
never
you and
planned
I,
it.
yeah, I mean, I think you and I are like um, a lot of people listening to this, on the treadmill or in the car or whatever. And, God gave us this sort of business drive, right? But there's a point at which, um, you kind of realize what am I, what's the incremental dollar or revenue or earning? I mean, it does kind of have diminishing returns if we're honest with ourselves, I think. And so, like, I think most people listen to this like, okay, well then, all right, well, what is the purpose for what we're doing? And I think the things you're describing, I can tell from the way you tell a story. It, tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but it feels like it's almost giving you a new purpose to the business. It's like, why are we going to keep growing this thing? Why are we going to keep doing this thing? Well, I have a feeling it's not for the incremental dollar for you. It's like now you've got this thing that's a blessing machine to other people. Uh, are you feeling that as a kind of a new motivation over time?
I would say you're exactly right.
Yeah.
That is the motivation. Now,
Right.
I
The
would say,
motivation. Right.
yeah, I will say that it is all one. Just like I had to decompartmentalize my faith life. I think you have to decompartmentalize your business.
Yeah.
That it's all one thing. I have to do business, the business of developing, constructing, managing uh, multifamily, apartment homes for people. We have to do that with excellence.
Right.
We have to do it profitably.
Right.
We have to do it well with total excellence. Because if we don't, then we can't uh, fulfill this mission of
Yeah. Without the
ministry.
excellent business, you don't have the mission.
That's correct.
You
So
have to
it's
do the
super
work well
important.
to
Yes,
execute on the thing that gives you purpose.
correct. And if we don't do that, then that is the engine that drives this and makes our ministry
Exactly.
possible. So we have to do it all well and with excellence, and it's all one thing. It's all part of our
Well,
mission at its
what it
core.
reminds me of is it's the way God set it up, right? In the garden with Adam and Eve. He's like,
Yes,
here's the
great.
land. You got to work it to get the blessing. But anyway, you get to commune with me all the way. But the work and the purpose are all connected. All
Yeah,
right. You don't get one
well
without the
said.
other. We don't just get to sit back in the rocking chair and, like I think people have maybe a wrong image of heaven. If you read Alcorn's Heaven book or something, it's like, we're going to be doing stuff, you know? And so this is a bit of a mirror of what it'll be like. So,
Yeah,
and the other thing
good analogy.
Paul, the other thing I love about the way you tell the story is something that popped for me. You were talking about praying, like, God, what's my mission? Like, give me something to sink my teeth into that. And then he says, hey, I've already given it to you. It reminds me of like Moses, on top of the mountain, asking God, like, I need these resources to lead these people, and God's like, hey, what about that staff in your hand? He's like, this old stick, you know? But I think, I mean, to me, this is the takeaway of macro of your story. Everybody listening to this has a platform. Frankly, whether you have a business or not, God has put you in a situation where you have resources around you, people to be a blessing to your coworkers, your customers, your family, whatever it is. He's already given you a platform. And how do we just pray about using the platform we've already been given in a more meaningful way? I just think sometimes we all sort of, hey, that person's got an interesting platform. God, could I have something like that? Uh, you've already got it, I bet. Or you just need to wake up and see it. Would you agree with that kind of idea?
I would agree wholly. There was a quote I read some years ago, and I think it's applicable to kind of build on what you just said. Our platform, again, we're a decade into this journey about being serious,
Right.
building it. I wouldn't have conceived what it would be today, even 7 or 8 years ago. But there was a quote that said, "You can't help everybody, but you can
Mm,
help somebody."
right.
So you can't let the daunting kind of massive need out there, or just the confusion of how and where can I serve. Just pick one thing that may not even be that passionate about it at first, but you'll gain a passion. And so we can all help somebody. We can all do one thing. We can all serve in some way. So I would just encourage anybody out there to get started and and lean in, and God will continue to bless that and open doors and reward that, or pull back opportunities. And so you just have to get started.
Well, I think we always try to wrap with a practical tip. And while you're telling that, it reminds me of the old starfish story. It's like, the person on the beach who's, picking up starfish and throwing them into the ocean, and somebody comes behind him and says, "Well, what are you doing? Who cares about tossing them? They're everywhere." He's like, "Well, at least I saved that one." You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
that's right.
just
Same
doing
thing.
something productive is helpful. So as we leave, would that be the primary practical tip? But we always try to have a practical tip. Somebody behind you on the journey, maybe they're having some success, and they're kind of having that prayer about, okay, God, what do you want me to do? What maybe just continue in that line of thinking, or is there something else that you'd want to share as a practical tip?
Well, I think as a practical tip, whether it's business, service, your own kind of walk, uh, don't wait until you think you're
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah.
It's, well, I'm going to be ready when I do this, or if I get to this milestone, or if I
So
get to
true.
this milestone. And
There
I
is a
guess,
temptation to do that for sure.
yes, it's just start. And again, whether it's business, service, life, spiritual life, just lean in and go, and don't wait till you kind of hit, because that will be elusive to you. At my age, I've kind of discovered that, but I guess as I look back, it's one thing that I've benefited from was just not believing I couldn't, or even being dissuaded by something I shouldn't even be attempting. It's just lean in and get started. It'll be small, but then incrementally over time, like compounding, the principle of compounding, it'll grow, and then it'll start to grow faster. That's what I've experienced.
Totally agree. It's like that. Yeah, we talk about that in the money business, the sort of eighth wonder of the world, the compounding effects of, we always think of investments, but it's also of doing these behaviors. They start accruing and compounding. So the sooner you can do that, the better. So anyway, I just love that. Don't wait, as a practical tip, and get started, even if it's something small.
Yes.
Um, And so, Paul, I just want to thank you so much for joining us. This has been a real joy, and I feel like we've barely scratched the surface, but it's really just a privilege to call you a friend, and I really thank you for sharing your story with the audience today.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Jeff. All glory to God, and thank you for doing what you do on this podcast. I've listened to quite a few of your
Oh,
episodes,
nice.
and it's blessed me to hear other stories. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you, and thank everybody for joining us on this week's Generous Business Owner Podcast. Subscribe, share it with a friend, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Generous Business Owner Podcast with Jeff Thomas, Alan Barnhart, and Jeff Rutt. Make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. You can find the guest contact information in the show notes. Stay tuned for the next episode.